Onkyo 4500, TX 4500, make that. Onkyo TX 4500 Mark II, actually. Stereo receiver. These were manufactured between 79 and 1980. Direct coupled receivers. Now I've seen a couple of different power ratings. What I found on Hi-Fi Engine was 60 watts per channel at 8 ohms. Dimensions are large. It's heavy. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what amazes me is every time an Onkyo crosses my bench for service, and this one I actually did repair once upon a time because I pulled down a service manual for it and I replaced some transistors because I think a channel was out, but it was a while ago. I don't think I shot a service video on it. I may have. But every time one of these crosses my bench, I think, man, these are good receivers. I mean, these are quality receivers. I've worked on a 2500. I know this 4500. Seems to me there might have been another 4500 I worked on. But every time I'm kind of surprised because I don't think Onkyo when I think of vintage stereo receivers. Pioneer and Sansui and Marantz and all the common brands, even Sony. But Onkyo I just never think of. But I'm surprised every time. So as far as the series goes, this was in the TX lineup. So the TX series of receivers, they had Mark I and Mark II. And I'll explain the differences between those two here in a minute. But for the Mark II series, they had the 1500, 2500, 4500, which is what you see before you, and the 6500. 6500 was, I think it was top of the line. For some reason, I think there might have been an 8500. If there was an 8500, I'll flash it up here, but I didn't even look that up before I came down to shoot the video. But according to the product catalog I pulled from 1980, the highest wattage receiver they listed was the 6500 at 105 watts per channel. The differences between the Mark I and the Mark II series, as far as I can tell, Mark I's, I think they came with a wooden cabinet or a wood veneer cabinet. The look is a little bit older, a little bit more traditional, and I'm sure I've flashed some images up here to where you could see, exactly what that series kind of looked like. With the Mark II, you get a metal cabinet with kind of like that Marantz kind of wrapped, maybe probably a vinyl veneer just directly applied to the metal cabinet. Definitely has a more modern look. From what I could tell, at least for the 4500, this is about 5 watts per channel higher than the 4500 Mark I, if you want to call it the Mark I. But if that's different, naturally I'll flash up an image. So looking at the aesthetics of the receiver, it's definitely that late 70s, early 80s vibe. And I don't know what it is. I think it's the font on the dial, the way the lights shine down on the face, that just make it look like it's right on the verge of going into the 1980s. The sound, every Onkyo that I've heard, they have very, very nice, clean, balanced sound. I think these are sleeper receivers. I think they're undervalued receivers, to be honest with you. Although when we get into prices on this, maybe not anymore. Maybe they're starting to gain some footing with the big boys like Pioneer and Sansui and Marantz. But the sound of every Onkyo I've worked on has been surprisingly clear, just balanced. That's all I can say, just balanced. Now I don't own one, I don't see myself owning one, but I would have no problem owning an Onkyo. I'm not completely down with the aesthetic, and I'm shallow that way with stereo receivers. But sound-wise, these things are phenomenal. As I said, power 60 watts per channel. Hookups are easy, right? Just kind of traditional hookups in the back. And I think this has, let me check. I'm going to slide into the frame real quick. This has screw down speaker connectors. So that's a negative on these. The other negative on these is they're just gigantic. This is like 34 pounds, 33 pounds. And it's 23 inches across. This is a big receiver. I had to back my camera up from where it normally sits down here to shoot this video. So they're big. Operation is pretty easy. You got power, speaker selector, bass, treble, balance. You have a couple of filters, right? Low and high filter. You have stereo mono mode, loudness contour, nice stepped volume control, right? You have stepped bass and treble controls as well. Balance is notched in the middle, which is nice. FM muting with quartz lock, right? Naturally, I don't get anything down here, or with lock. I'm pretty sure it's quartz lock. You have a de-emphasis button for FM tuning, tape 1 and tape 2 and tape 3, which is really nice. And then you've got AM, FM, phono 1 and phono 2. So you've got phono 1, phono 2, tape 1, tape 2, tape 3. There's no traditional auxiliary, but that's what you would use one of those tapes for. So you could have 5 different devices hooked up to this without the use of some kind of splitter. And the controls are laid out. They're nice and clean. I can tell where the volume is. The selector is easy to use. The speaker selector is easy to use. It's just they're really easy to operate receivers. As far as serviceability goes, from what I remember, they're service friendly. I don't remember having an issue when I worked on the other one. Now, if there's a video out there where I was cussing up a storm and getting frustrated, that's different. But as far as the repair that I did to it I don't remember it causing me much consternation at all. Maintenance is pretty easy, or it appears that basic maintenance would be pretty easy on this. As I was looking, I always look up, what are some common problems? What are some things I have to look out for if I want to buy one of these? What are the things that I'm going to need to do if I get one of these, or I'm going to have to send out to have done? 0. I came up with no common issues on these. In fact, I came up with more posts that said, I've had this for 30, 40 years and never had an issue with it than posts that mentioned some type of recurring problem with these. But again, they probably didn't sell a lot of these. I don't know how many of these are still around. I did find a decent amount of sales on them, but there were Mark 1 and Mark 2 sales interspersed, amongst each other. So it's kind of hard to tell. I didn't see a lot of Mark 2s. I would say when I did my research for this, maybe 4 had sold. A lot of Mark 1s had sold. So, things to look out for, or things that you need to anticipate doing to one of these. I don't have anything for you at this point in time. What you should look out for if you're looking for one of these, I would say the glass panel, because this is all kind of one piece. So if this glass is broken, it'd probably be easy enough to repair. I don't know if it's plexiglass or glass though. I'm not real sure. I think it's glass. So for this receiver, I would look out for just cosmetic condition, cosmetic completeness. Do you have all of these screws? Do you have all of the knobs and all the cap covers? And is the glass in decent condition? Now, if it's not a wood case, I wouldn't anticipate the metal, right? So on a Mark II, the metal cabinet being much of an issue, other than, if someone just scratched the heck out of it or painted it or something like that, you may have to deal with those things. But I can't think of anything else to look for on one of these besides that. You might want to make sure it turns on, I guess. But I really don't know what else to look for based upon like an eBay listing. It's either going to be working or untested, and I don't trust untested. I've been burned with untested devices so many times where, now if someone says it's untested, I call BS on it. Unless they legitimately do not sell electronics. That's the only time I'll trust that. But I think I've shared the story about a Pioneer turntable untested from a seller that sold turntables all the time. But the other tables were always tested. I'm like, yeah. And when I got it, what was wrong with it? Tone arm wires were basically ripped out. So I had to rewire the tone arm. So that's all I got for you. I don't know. I really don't know what else to look for on these. Price on these actually aren't going to kill you for what you get, for the quality you get, for the heftiness of the unit, for the sound that you get. As I was going through, I couldn't find any crazy listings. So normally I like to put up And if I, at the day that I edit this video, which is probably going to be a couple months from now, I always do a look, just see if I see something crazy out there. If I do, it'll be posted in this section, or I'll put an image up. But, today, when I did the research for this, I couldn't find any that were being sold right now, or someone was asking, a price on it that was out of control. To get one that's in really good condition, restored, serviced, perfect condition, you're looking at over $600. And that's for the 4500. Naturally, the 6500, they command a much higher price. But one that's, museum piece quality, looks like it just walked out of 1980. Maybe it's been recapped or something like that. Everything is working the way it should. Over $600. One in this condition, so this is in good condition. It's been repaired, it's been serviced, hasn't been recapped. It's not the cleanest unit. There are some imperfections in the glass, and there's still some staining on the cabinet. So one like this, $400. And for what you get for $400, I think it's a heck of a deal. These are great receivers for what you get for your dollar. Pound for pound, I mean, these are right up there with some of those iconic receivers, at least iconic in my mind, that are just, they outpunch their weight, like the Pioneer SX737 and the Sony STR 6050 and the Marantz 2230 and some of those that are just like, man, for what you are paying, you're getting a heck of a deal. So for $400, I think this is a great receiver, just a great receiver, and it looks good. I mean, it's got a really good, sleek look to it. For parts, if you want to get one of these to repair, the lowest sale today was $150. I think it was slightly less than $150. So I'm going to call less than $200. Right, and when I give you those price recommendations, it's based totally upon kind of where I'm at. So I'm in near Omaha, Nebraska, in the middle of the country. So I kind of know what these sell for in the shop, right? And I also know what I would have to get into one of these for to repair it, sell it to the shop, right, and make a little bit of money. So would I spend more than $200 on one of these? I don't know that I would, unless it was in the box with the manual and maybe I had to recap it or sort out whatever I sorted out on this, a channel that was out or something like that. So for me, where I am, based upon all that, less than $200. Might go a little bit higher again if it was just pristine. But I will tell you that Onkyo receivers, every one that I've looked at, has impressed me. Now, does my opinion matter? Not really. I'm some random dude on YouTube doing stereo reviews right in his basement because he's got a little bit of free time a couple of days a week. But as someone who services these, and I've serviced hundreds of receivers, hundreds of turntables, dozens of tape decks in their various forms and amplifiers, between the two shops that I do work for, plus my own sick addiction to this hobby. I'll tell you that based upon those numbers, Onkyo, great receivers. They're really good receivers. We have some fans down at the shop that just love these. But my battery light just came on. I'm going to wrap this up real quick before it cuts out. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. Sorry I'm wrapping it up quick, but just like someone in speech class that went over their time, I got to wrap this thing up. So stay tuned. Got some more really good gear reviews coming up.